Hello, so welcome to our third Let's Play video for COMP3218 Game Design and Development at the University of Southampton. My name is Dave Millard, I'm one of the lecturers on the course, and I am here with
Adrian Chapman
and Tom Brown.
So we've asked our students to submit a game prototype, and we're going to have a look at 3 of them in this video. Tom, do you want to say a bit more about what we actually asked them to do?
So for this coursework, we asked our students to construct a small game prototype which featured a very clear core dynamic of their game, and also a way of tutorializing this to the player, along with how they should be playing the game.
Brilliant. Okay, so our first game, I think, is called Flying Bird, which probably gives you the clue as to what it's about.
What we are in for, okay?
We're going to start Flying Bird. Press any button to... Oh, it was over already. What was I supposed to do?
Press any button.
Any button to jump. Okay.
Oh.
Alright.
Better get on that button.
Try to avoid the pipes. Okay.
Ah, okay.
Down. Oh, I hit a pipe. Oh, well. I hit another pipe. I'm really bad at this game. I've always have been.
So in terms of what's going on, I've got lives up in the top right, number of pipes I've hit in the top left.
Number of pipes you've avoided.
That's my progress.
I've lost
However,
my mouse.
the score is kind of bugged because you've got a score of 0.
And I have no ability to do... Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah, it's just that the mouse is high.
And I think also as soon as you go through the first gate, it remembers your score from the second one. So I think that's a bit of a minor bug. But yeah, so now you're immediately afloat. But because the whole dynamic of this is survival, the fact that that's quite important. Your score is how many pipes you...
Yeah.
So there isn't a huge amount of complexity to this game, so I think we've seen everything there is to see. We can probably just jump right into...
So just so I understand, what's going on with the stars then? So
stars give you power-ups. There are a number of random power-ups that the star could give you. It could give you an extra life, a shield,
so
or
you've got a shield for 3, and the power-up appears in the top right-hand corner, and then you've got 1 more life.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like... Oh, I see. Okay. Right, okay.
So
and now I have game over 6, though.
Okay, so another nitpick I've got with any game where the primary control is on the keyboard, make the next level button or the restart level button also be on the keyboard.
Yeah. Don't take your hand away from wherever it was. Okay, well let's start thinking of this in terms of the criteria then. So, looks like a shield.
I got a shield. I need a shield.
So the first thing was bugs. So looks like we've got a couple of minor bugs, but they don't break the game. I take your point about they're kind of critical for.
Yeah, it's critical to sort of the dynamic of the game, I guess. And the thing is with the score, I don't know if that actually is on purpose or whether it is supposed to be your total throughout every run.
Yeah.
I suspect it's just a bug.
That feels like a bug, doesn't it? You wouldn't have the total up there. So you've got 20 up there at the moment. Although the score that's reported at the end looks like it's the right score.
Yeah.
So okay.
So it doesn't fundamentally break.
So it's just a little bug in the tally.
However, in terms of complexity, there's not a huge amount of complexity here.
No, I mean
there's not a lot. This
is always the problem with any of these kind of Flappy Bird type games. The problem is there just isn't enough to chew on, right? So here, at least we've got multiple routes through. We've got the power-ups going on. But yeah, so if we actually think about the mechanics, you've got jump, you've got hit the pipe, and you've got collect a star.
1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is actually one of my big beefs. Sorry.
The fact that
I die 1, 2, 3. When I'm still figuring out,
what I have to do.
What am I pushing?
It should only start once you've pressed a button to jump.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
All
right. So in terms of bugs and where it is then.
So a simple game.
So I would say that. Oh,
I don't know what I did.
Oh, resume. So I mean, if it wasn't for the simplicity, it actually wouldn't be that bad, would it? So good would be there are only minor bugs and these are uncommon. That's probably where it is. But
there's just not enough in this game to go wrong.
Yeah.
But I think it's still probably at the satisfactory level in terms of bugs. It's okay. It's plays.
Perhaps. I would be a little bit more critical, but
they've got
Tom, I want you to play this. I'm not convinced that this big bird you could fly through the smaller of these pipes.
So I have found a similar issue. I'll give it a go. But all right, so if we move on to information design and
So information design and look and feel. So look and feel. I mean, it's simple but effective and consistent. It all looks like it's part of the same game.
So again, these power up. When you collect a power up, it tells you what it is in the top right, and it tells you how long you've got left.
Yeah.
But
it's miles away from where you're
I'm looking right in the middle of the screen because that's.
We've seen that's pretty hopeless before. So the only one that really works for me is the shield. Because that physically changes your character.
The smaller
bird does too.
But the thing is, the important thing about both of those is how long it lasts.
But there's no timer.
There's a timer in the top right.
But you'd expect.
But I need it to be where I'm looking.
I'd expect there to be some kind of high icon or something around the bird that was going down or something. Yeah. And again, so the information design top left for how far you've got as well. I mean, it's fine, but every one of these should be a little victory, right? So why not have a kind of like ta-da every time you go through a gap or something? Or just make something more of it.
Also, the size of we'll get into this in a little bit more later, but the size of these gaps isn't changing. So
no.
The challenge isn't changing, really?
No. So, okay, so in terms of presentation then...
pretty visuals, nice audio.
Satisfactory
It's satisfactory.
Key information shown, consistent graphics, some audio effects on music.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
Probably sits there, doesn't it?
Yep.
Okay, gameplay. So good here would be a set of complementary mechanics and smooth usable controls that leads to meaningful play. So, I mean, you've got a couple of mechanics that are working.
Yeah.
You're able to play. Whether or not it counts as a set of meaningful mechanics, the controls.
I mean, they're responsive. I feel like the jump is a little bit too much, but I think I always feel that about these type of games.
It does feel a bit.
So, for example,
quite aggressive, isn't it?
It's difficult to get through some of these smaller gaps, and particularly when the pipes are arranged in stuff like this one right here.
You're not going to make it.
The large gap and the small gap are exactly the same size.
Yes, yeah.
Just because of the way it's laid out, which means I'm basically guaranteed to lose a life there.
Yeah, it's not great, is it?
So I'm trying to go through this one, and get as far as I can just by going through all of the easy ones.
So satisfactory here would be a set of mechanics with usable controls and some meaningful play. And I think probably because of the lack of variety, it feels a bit more towards that.
Yeah.
I mean, it is meaningful play. I mean, it's Flappy Birds basically.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of quite limited. But still, I think satisfactory. It's okay. Okay, so level design. So is the level? How good is the level design? How well does it demonstrate mechanics? Is there an attempt at pacing?
So the thing is, there kind of isn't. As far as I can tell, each of these things are equally spaced apart, and they just randomly change where the holes are, and each one has a large hole and a...
They're exactly the same, aren't they?
Except when we get to situations like that, where the large hole is cut off by the bottom of the
screen. Is it always the case that the small hole has a prize behind it?
Yeah.
And this is the tutorial, right? Sorry, we're on level. So there's only 2 levels. There's nothing, or there is...
So what happens if you... when you started out, was there a choice between tutorial and the main level?
No.
So this is it.
This is it.
So it's integrated fully into the game.
Yeah.
But, there's just not enough mechanics that it's...
no level.
So, yeah, it's just a repeat of things. Well, let's have a look. So let's have a look at what we would say for a pass, right? So a pass would be a level design that demonstrates some of the mechanics but poorly balanced or paced and with a lack of clarity. And poor would be a poor level design that does not demonstrate the mechanics adequately, is poorly balanced and paced with a lack of clarity over goals and risks and rewards. So the problem here is they've got the power-ups in, and normally I'd say that's quite a nice idea because it means you have a choice. Do you go for the easy gap or the simple gap? And at every point there's a meaningful choice. But it's not a particularly interesting choice because you don't know what the power-ups actually are. So you don't know whether they're... If you have a particular favourite, you don't know whether it's really worth it or not.
Well, it also doesn't feel worth it at all because it's much, much easier to go through all of the large
and it's crucially, cripplingly difficult. And the difficulty comes just from the size, not from the placement.
That's right.
So you'd expect, going from top to bottom, like you just done, right? That's got to be trickier than going through the middle.
But then now we get a whole bunch of these.
So for me, the level design. So the bottom one is almost no serious attempt at level design. I mean, there is an argument that that's going on here, right? But I think the counter argument to that would be there is an attempt at level design, but there is only one level design, and that level design is they've clearly thought let's put the same barrier every time with a star behind one and not behind the other. So there's something here, right? So the question for me really is, does it pass or not? Is it on the pass or the poor side? So a poor level design does not demonstrate the mechanics adequately, is poorly balanced and paced with a lack of clarity over goals, risks, and rewards. And the pass was it demonstrates some of the mechanics but poorly balanced or paced with a lack of clarity.
I think part of the problem is it demonstrates all the mechanics. It's just there aren't enough mechanics.
Yeah. So
I would almost even say it demonstrates all of them, but it is not designed. Right?
Yeah.
That I think is the thing we keep butting up into, is that it does show it. But
so it has been designed. They have put thought into, we'll have a small gap with a power up and a large gap without one.
It's just like I said, it's the same thing.
Over and over and over. Exactly.
So what they could have done is sort of create some patterns of these things that sort of create slightly more interesting play, and then either randomly generate those or repeat them as you go on.
And a bit of variety.
But even something like varying the distance between these things as you get further through.
So I think our key. So for me, is it a pass? So the difference between a pass and a poor is whether or not it demonstrates some of the mechanics. And I think the problem here, as you said, is that there aren't that many mechanics to demonstrate. So just to give an example, there's no the power-ups you get, there are no particular elements in the level design that need or require those power-ups to get through.
Absolutely.
Right?
I'm also a little unsure. So for the shield lasts 3 seconds. There's only just 3 seconds between each pipe.
So you might not. But so an example would be, imagine if you could get the shield. And if you can get the shield, presumably you can go through a pipe. You don't even need a hole.
Yeah.
So you could get the shield and then go through a pipe to get a better power up on the other side of it, or something like an extra life.
Also, it says I've got a shield, but I've got the smaller body power instead. So some of those are a bit inconsistent.
So I kind of feel that. So I think it's probably somewhere between the two. So it's verging on a pass. It's like there's some thought has gone into it. It's playable. It demonstrates the mechanics, or at least the main mechanic. But the other mechanics, things like the shield and those, it doesn't really. The level design doesn't require you to use any of those. You don't need to use them for, So for me, it's between those two.
Agreed.
Does that sound
fair?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Now, tutorial design, unfortunately, there is very little tutorial. There's just a blank space with no pipes where you says spacebar, which we've already realized is hard because if you don't hit it immediately, your bird dies 3 times. And then you fly, it says don't hit the pipes. And
the thing is, that is a very comprehensive tutorial.
It is a comprehensive tutorial.
So what about the power-ups then? Remind me, did anything appear to tell you what was going on with the power-ups?
It tells you each time you pick one up what you picked up, but that's
it. So again,
also this is still bugged.
So satisfactory would we on integrated tutorial? So we clearly don't have that. So a pass here is a tutorial that communicates some goals, risks, and rewards, and introduces some information mechanics in a logical way. And a poor would be a tutorial that communicates some goals, risks, and rewards, and that introduces some information and mechanics. So it's the logical part. So here, I think it's actually a poor. I think that it gives you something to get going.
Yeah, and that's it.
And it leads you to it. I mean, there's no progress. There's no logical progression.
It doesn't show you that if you get a shield, you could go through pipes, and then next one you get.
So what you'd expect is you give me a star with a solid pipe.
Yeah.
And the star gives me a shield.
That's
right. And I go through.
Yep.
That's the kind of thing we'd want to see. Okay, so that kind of that I think doesn't work. What do they say about their core dynamic?
So they say the core dynamic is survival.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I mean is sort of true because it's survive as long as possible. I mean, you could make the argument that it is. It's just there's not enough mechanics to really sort of feed in and emphasize that. Particularly the fact that the score is bugged. So the score is bugged in 2 ways. The score shown right now is your total score, and the score you get at the end right now always says 6.
So again,
there is no...
Part of the problem is, it's like, what makes survival games interesting are the meaningful choices you make. So, do you risk expending your ammunition in order to gain something, for example? Do you... something where you're managing your resources, or you're... So I guess here the idea is the power-ups of that kind
So
of
do you go for the
balance.
risk to... But the problem is that...
But it's because they're not adequately linked to succeeding in the future.
That's
So
it.
getting a power-up isn't...
So
actually
it might give
matter.
you an extra life, but it almost certainly costs you a life to get it, just because of the way those pipes balance.
Yeah.
So it almost always, in this case, seems just to be better to always go for the large gap.
Yeah. I mean, it still feels like it's. I don't think this one's a. I think this is at least a pass.
Yeah.
So a pass here would be a core dynamic, but it's not well supported by the mechanics or the audio-visual choices.
That's it. They're certainly not directly working against it. They just could be supporting it much better than they are.
Yeah. So I mean, do you think it's a pass, or do you think it's kind of halfway to satisfactory? It might be halfway to satisfactory.
It might be halfway satisfactory. That's fine.
It's kind of so satisfactory would be a core dynamic. There's a poor match with the theme, or is supported by only some of the mechanics and individual choices. So as you said, it's kind of
So
it's not
here's the question though. To be honest, the question that keeps playing in my head is: this is Flappy Bird, right?
Yeah.
And we've said that derivative games are perfectly fine. This is clearly they're not using the same graphics, etc. But there is no difference in mechanic. There is no difference in.
I suppose you argue that the Flappy Bird doesn't have the different routes and the power-ups, I suppose. But yes, it is clearly very derivative.
I'll take the power-ups. Okay, and for that I won't unmark the course. That's fine. Okay.
Okay, shall we say that the core dynamic is... I think I agree. So Tom made the point that that none of the mechanics are fighting against the core dynamic, but they're not actually supporting it.
Yes.
So if we interpret supporting as being actually encouraging you, then I think what that means is that in terms of a core dynamic, it's a pass.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what do they say for their feedback?
So in terms of feedback, so initially when they were looking at their core dynamic, they wanted to have 2 core dynamics. They wanted to have survival and collection.
Right.
And we sort of emphasised that because it's the core dynamic, they can really only pick one of those. So they went with survival. So by using both obstacles and scores, or rather, so they were going to score based on. I'm not sure whether they were planning on scoring based on sort of power-ups you picked up or just the number of pipes you passed.
Yeah.
So they basically decided they were going to just call it survival.
Yeah.
They also wanted to add an extra mechanic, so at the time they only had the jump, which again very derivative of just Flappy Bird. So they added the power-ups to.
Okay, which is kind of saved them a bit from
academic integrity.
Yeah.
They also wanted to provide the player sort of some choices, sort of routes to go through. So which is why they've tried to do that with the.
And that was definitely one of the pieces of advice they got was to give people those kind of choices. So, in terms of their feedback, I mean, satisfactory is feedback's articulated and some changes have been attempted with partial success.
I think it probably is at that level. So they have tried to add something, but they haven't necessarily thought about how it's changed their game.
So they haven't thought through kind of the consequences of. They've always they've done what was suggested, but without kind of interpreting it for their game and thinking it through. Yeah. Okay, I think we'll put it down as a sort of satisfactory, and then I guess we should move on.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So our second game is called Hungry Hopper. Now this was done by a single person. And most of our games are done by a pair, so that means I think that we are going to have to be thinking about the scope a little bit differently. But it's another exciting Flappy Clones. Flappy Birds clone.
I feel like
Flappy Clones.
Click the left mouse button to flap.
I feel like you've already died though.
I do feel like I've already died.
Yeah, it feels
the aim of the game is to survive as long as possible and rack up high score.
I think what we have here is a bug.
I think we might.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to try again. This time...
Hey, I'm flapping. Okay.
So it is a problem, but it tells you how to survive after the point where you need to have survived.
Yeah, you would...
But, luckily we've played enough Flappy Clones. Left mouse button to flap.
Okay, so far so good.
Okay. Survive as long as possible and rack up that high score for the epic game of victory. Right. I quite like that sort of little pixel art. That's cute. Avoid these obstacles or you will die. So at least this is introducing us to some of the key ideas. It's good. Items can have different effects, but also grant points. Okay, so I've got a score of 1, presumably from going through the
cookie.
Give me an extra life. Okay, so that's quite nice. So it's introducing it. I know what it is. You get it, and you get a little extra bird flame.
Okay.
That's
You'll turn your world upside down.
Oh no! I don't like that. Don't like that at all.
The apple makes you fly higher.
Oh no, I don't want to go higher.
I feel both of those things aren't really power-ups.
And this is the pie that makes you. Oh my goodness!
What's the pie do?
I think the pie makes you fly lower. Although I don't think it told us that. Or did it just crash out?
I think we just crashed out. Unless that was just the end of the tutorial.
So I remember playing this, and they said that actually the apple thing that makes you fly higher is actually a bad thing. It's
same with the Stein.
Yeah, and the Stein is. Yeah. So is
this tutorial or is this?
Oh, I just did tutorial. I'm sorry. I should have gone to play.
Okay, so
we'll get through it. Maybe. Is there sound in this, or is that the birds outside?
I know it's just the birds outside.
Okay.
I don't think there's any sound. Well, let's while you're doing this, and I guess we'll play the game.
Keep going.
Let's go through it. So, okay, in terms of quality, bugs.
I mean, we haven't discovered any so far, but again, it's...
Well, we had that one right at the beginning, which arguably is a bug.
Yes.
True.
Which is that we died and then it carried on without us.
Alright, I want a cookie.
And then we had that kind of weird crash, but that might have been just the game finishing.
I think it might have been that we went back to the menu because we were hammering the click button.
Could be. I'm skipping the Stein. This time it was too difficult.
Which is always a problem with these type of games. You're kind of like hammering away. So I would say that's infrequent bugs, and they're only. I'd say it's a minor bug. It kind of seems like it plays alright.
Absolutely.
We'll see what happens as we play.
We'll see. I mean, so at the moment, I think they're online for a good.
I think you have to get that Stein.
Do I have to? I don't want to.
So that's interesting.
Why do you have to get the Stein?
Because it's part of the tutorial.
And it presented me with 2 when I decided to ignore one.
Oh, okay. That's kind of fun. So it's actually trying to teach you all the different bits.
What does the apple do?
Please enjoy the game.
Fly high.
Right, careful not to click too much now because we're about to go through.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah, you're right. Play.
Here we go.
Okay. So we'll see what happens, but it feels like in terms of the bugs, it feels okay. It feels like
absolutely.
It feels like it's a good. It's doing right. So presentation, information design, audio visuals.
So no audio. The visuals are cohesive.
Yeah, they look good, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do.
So there's not much in the way of information to convey other than the score and what was in the tutorial, but
we got some little icons. Mini icons for power-ups is good.
Do I like cake? I don't remember learning what cake did.
I think that might be the pie. Making you heavier, I think.
Oh yes, well it does.
I still think that. So although we said there's not a lot to convey, one of the things to convey is that when you pass one of these things, you get a point, and that's not obvious because you've got a little score at the bottom that ticks up. Give me a big +1. Give me a shower of something.
So you get points for all of the power-ups as well.
Avoiding the Stein.
Which is a reason to maybe get the Stein.
Yep,
so it
not
makes
worth
the game
it.
harder, but you get
points.
Do you get a point or do you get 10 points?
Which is also useful in terms of making decisions. But it's not clear what they are.
Yeah.
So actually, I think that the information design. I mean, it's not confusing. So yeah, that Stein
9 points.
Did it give me
Yeah, it did give you a big chunk of points.
Oh, so it's worth it.
But you didn't know that, right? And if you get this one here, so you're on 44, you get this. That just gave you 1. So the Stein gave you 10 points.
But it was hard, and it was hard.
Which is good, right?
Did you see the death face? Oh man, my poor bird!
Oh, that is sad. It's almost worth this. But also, in a way, that's the most interesting thing that we've seen so far.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to die on purpose.
Part of the problem of, again, choosing the Flappy Birds claim.
Yeah.
So,
gameplay. So I like, actually, that I have a choice of Stein for lots of points.
Well,
we didn't do presentation, sorry.
Yeah, so I think graphics are good.
Mm-hmm.
There's no audio. I mean, maybe, given that this is somebody working on their own, we ought to kind of let them off that a little bit. Because, it's the sort of thing that will drop out at the end. But in terms of information design, as I said, it's not confusing things, but
it could highlight some things.
And there's some really important information, like the points you get from the different bits, which you're not getting. So we've got kind of satisfactory will be key information is shown, consistent graphics, some audio.
I do feel like I've got a lot more control over this bird than the previous one.
The jumps are smaller, isn't it?
Yeah, the jumps are much more constrained. It's nicer control, I think.
So I think in terms of presentation, it's probably satisfactory.
I agree.
I agree. It's absolutely fine. In gameplay, so you just mentioned the controls. So the controls seem a bit better. You kind of
I think because you've got a slightly more finer grain control, it means you can have slightly more interesting levels. So you can have slightly tighter puzzles
gaps.
like that.
Yeah, and I like you have a choice. You have a choice to go for high points in the Stein, which makes it harder, or
the mechanics. I mean, the mechanics are interesting.
So they are still limited. It is still
a limited game,
but they're more interesting. So like the flipping stuff, making you heavier, making you that adds a lot of interest.
It does.
I'm not sure whether they're used in a complementary way though. They kind of.
So I mean, the things that directly
is this
impact
for
your
points
gameplay,
or survival? Are we looking for points or survival here? What is their core dynamic?
So I think they said survival.
Survival.
Yeah.
Well, and then it says getting as far as you can while racking your points.
I guess we'll get to that.
Yep.
But
so.
What do you think? So gameplay. So
I liked this. I actually thought this gameplay was much more interesting than just the last one with power-ups. You have choices. You have agency.
Because you know what you're doing. So I think this one, for me, again, this is probably satisfactory. It's like there is a set of mechanics, the controls are usable, and there is some meaningful
Absolutely.
play. But it's just they don't kind of come together and resonate and do anything particularly spectacular. But it feels... I mean, you might argue that it's... You might argue that if the controls are quite intuitive, you might knock it up slightly and put it halfway between that and...
Yeah, I like that. Especially for one person developing this game.
Yeah.
Okay, level design. So
I don't know how they've actually designed these levels, but there is certainly more challenge to it. So this shape, for example, you've got to go up, right to the top, down to the bottom, and then through.
So there is clearly a level design.
There is.
So they've thought it through. They're taking you... I mean, in terms of... I mean, in there you've got a bit that's a bit easy, and then you've got a kind of a hard bit.
But I don't know, for example, the relationship between the way they've designed power-ups and the things. Whether it is just a case of they've sort of preset some, for example, some crate patterns and then just randomly pick from those, or whether they've purposefully designed them in a certain way.
Yeah. And
the way they scatter power-ups through things. So, for example, having a pie power-up right before a small gap, because it gives you slightly more control over...
So a Flappy Bird's level design is never going to be amazing, but let's look at what the pass would be, right? So a pass would be a level design that demonstrates some of the mechanics, but it's poorly balanced or paced and with a lack of clarity over goal, risk, and rewards.
So here's the thing: there's definitely sort of challenge in this, but I don't know if that challenge is increasing.
No.
I'm not sure.
Satisfactory would be sensible level design that demonstrates some of the mechanics with an attempt at pacing. And some goals, risk, and rewards. It feels to me...
It feels like it's hitting satisfactory.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
So kind of, it's... Yeah, okay, because I mean you've got... So what is it doing in terms of pacing then, do you think?
So this is the thing, I think it's more of a case of, it's still quite like a flat line of pacing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But the line is more in the right place.
Okay.
So there's just more sort of a baseline challenge that's slightly more satisfying to play.
Well, I think let's give some benefit of doubt. So that's satisfactory. So tutorial design.
So I actually, if you remember when we were back in the tutorial, they kept presenting me the Stein. I ignored the Stein the second time through. I did not want it, and it kept presenting it to me until I took it. it to force me to learn how to play, which I actually really appreciate in tutorial design.
And the things are introduced one by one.
They are.
And the text does come up and tell you what's coming up.
Absolutely.
So other than the fact that it fails to tell you how to fly before you die.
Which, yeah.
And also what points things are worth.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's not telling you all of the information. But, so satisfactory here would be partly integrated tutorial that communicates some of the goals, risks and rewards through level design and introduces most information and mechanics in a logical way. So it feels like it's kind of at that satisfactory level.
Yeah.
It's
they've also thought through, I don't know if you noticed, but Tom died there and it didn't die.
Right.
They just let him continue on and they just blinked him a few times and which in a tutorial level, it's a safe haven, right? I like that. Yeah, I'm good with satisfactory.
So let's think about the core dynamic then. So what do they say for the core dynamic?
Survival.
Survival. Okay.
Getting as far as you can while racking your points.
So
this is hard. They've muddled it a little bit. Is it survival? Is it race to the end? Or...
It's not race to the end, because there is no
But it could be collection, right?
It could be collection.
But it absolutely could be collection, particularly because you get those bonus points for collecting things. I think... It's definitely tough between the two. I think it's still very survival, because you get points for surviving as long as possible. And the risk-reward is... You get extra points at the expense of making it more difficult.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's still... So they've come close to very, muddling that up. But I think it's still okay. It maybe doesn't serve it as well as it could, but it still does.
So we said satisfactory here with a core dynamic, but it's a poor match for the theme of the game, or is supported by at least some of the mechanics and audio-visual choices.
So maybe it's a little higher, actually. I actually think that the core dynamic is right for this game.
So put it this way, if the Stein, instead of giving you 10 flat points and flipping you upside down, it flipped you upside down and gave you double points for as long as you're upside down.
Yeah.
That would be the sort of thing that would really push that over into good.
Yeah.
I think as
you're
it
right.
is...
Yeah. Because it kind of... You're right. It feels like it's too much of an independent thing.
It doesn't reward you for surviving. I could get the Stein and then immediately die, and I could still get all those points. But if it rewards you for surviving in harder circumstances,
so I still think that even with that though, a satisfactory score is okay.
I think maybe borderline between satisfactory and good.
I would like that.
Let's do that.
All right.
So, lastly, feedback. What do they say?
So, they were told to focus hard on their core dynamic and make sure the place and playing knows what the core dynamic is, and not to make the tutorial level too long and too complicated, so that it's interesting to make you want to progress past the tutorial.
Speaking of which, I think we found another bug. I can't find a pie to get me out of the tutorial.
Okay. Well, I think that still counts as minor bugs, which are uncommon.
Yep.
So that's okay. So what was they? Sorry, they said.
So make sure the tutorial is walks them through it, but it's not too long or complicated.
Okay.
So you want to play, and two, focus on the core dynamic to make sure the person playing understands what it is.
But they haven't said what they did as a result of that.
They did. Let me prioritize making the game as fun and unique as possible.
Okay.
But no. Really... So unfortunately, the feedback and response was given for the game when they had a partner originally. Okay. And so they were trying to make it generic and attach it to this game as they could.
Okay. But even so, it would have been nice to be a bit more specific about what they did and why. I think that they've been successful with the tutorial part, but I think that is nice and clean, and it does introduce you to the elements and then kicks you into the main game, which is just what you want, really. So that's fine.
So if we look at the past, feedback was not well articulated, but
some changes have been made with some limited success.
Would you say that's fair?
I think that's I mean, satisfactory would be partial success. So they've.
But they've not really articulated the changes.
Yeah, I think it should be a pass. I think feedback. Okay, let's move on to the next game. Okay, so our next game is Time Trial. It's just me and Tom for this one.
Okay. So here's our little menu screen. So we've already got a hint of what sort of game this is going to be.
Yep. Yep.
So
Oh, that's nice.
I don't know what the controls are yet.
Whoa.
That was
okay. So
short iteration cycle. So we failed and then we
died, and there's no at this stage there doesn't appear to be any.
Is that double jump?
Oh my goodness! So at this stage there doesn't appear to be any lives, so that's okay.
So
you've got a seriously big jump.
I've got a double jump as well. It's just a little bit tricky to.
Oh my gosh! Okay, right there it goes. Oh.
So A is rewind.
A is rewind,
and then again.
That's quite cute. So what does that do?
I don't know. I don't seem to be able to pick it up.
Oh,
interesting. Oh, hang on. That's moved.
Hang on, that's changed. Because does that change?
Is that what that power up was doing?
So that power up presumably moved that piece. So now you can get up there.
I mean, we're sort of hypothesizing, right? We didn't see it happen.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of feedback.
I like it as a mechanic, but
slow. Okay.
So how do you go slow?
S, I think, for slow.
Oh, right, okay. So
D is blink. We'll blink through there.
Oh, right, okay.
But there's a checkpoint there, so we can.
That's quite nice.
In fact, I'm just going to fall off this because I want to see.
There's quite a lot going on though. Right, so we pick those up. No idea what
they do. But here's another one of these.
So if we do that.
No, not wrong.
Rewind.
Don't rewind far enough.
Oh, okay. So that's dropped though, hasn't it?
But it's still.
So it remembered it had gone down.
Okay, interesting. And so we're going through this same pattern that we just saw a second ago.
So it's going to presumably try to teach us that's going on. And then blink.
And then blink.
And over.
And then, what's this
one?
now
you're in the bit. Okay.
Okay, let's try that again.
How far back can you rewind?
I don't know. Let's see. See if I can go all the way back. Now I'm going to have to do all this again.
Yep.
Feels like the momentum changed there a little bit as well.
So
it's an interesting mechanic.
When you started playing this, my initial reaction was, "Oh my god, that is way too much going on." But actually, when you get into it, you seem to be able to incorporate it into your play reasonably well.
It's a little bit tricky. But,
so let's just have a look. So if you hit that green one, see if we can see anything leaving. Yeah, it definitely came down at that point.
Yeah.
It didn't animate though. There's no way of seeing it. But it was green. So my immediate assumption is that green things.
I assumed it was an extra life or something, but let's see. Oop, no, hang on.
I think you might be out of luck here.
And that's gone red now, so I think I'm out of. Am I out of rewinds or?
Are they? Is that what? Those
no,
are?
they were blinks. So, so these white things are they giving me more power?
I think they might be giving you more things you can do.
Yeah, more time power.
So again, that's not obvious.
It'd be nice if there was. Yeah, because it's not obvious that there's a limit of these things, so it'd be nice to know how many of them there are, whether it's like a time power meter or something, or just a number below each of those.
So, I mean,
I'm surprised how long I've lasted, I'll be honest.
Yeah, you're doing pretty well here. And there's some nice stuff going on. There's some movable platforms. There's those kind of physics thing going on. You're using that mechanic much better than I thought you would do.
I'm using the rewind a lot. So the slow I've not found myself using of at all, but the blink I've found quite handy.
Yeah, and I'm wondering whether slow might be just one thing too much.
Yes, unless I think it's supposed to be used on that lift platform so that I can get the jump off the top, but I haven't really found it needed.
Also, they didn't necessarily introduce it at a point when you needed it.
Yeah.
So it's like they said, you can slow down time, but you don't really need to.
So I mean, the just going back in time is useful as I messed up and I need to.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think I'm done for.
Oh no!
No. No.
You're out of power. And then back. Well, let's go through it. So in terms of
quality bugs.
Bugs?
I haven't found any yet.
No, it looks pretty good to me. There's some. They've clearly thought about some things.
What happens if I? No.
Yeah, it works quite well. So okay, I mean, I think it's So good would be minor bugs, and these are uncommon. Excellent would be no bugs, despite the complexity of the game. So
there are quite a few things going on.
There's moving bits. There's rewinding is quite complex. I think it's enough to rate you an excellent.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, that's the bugs. What about presentation?
So it's a very sort of simple style, but it's nice. It sort of
works well, doesn't it?
Yeah. I really like the trail.
The trail is very effective, and it works really well with the rewind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it shows you exactly what would happen if you went back.
Because without that.
So that's and the fact it works both ways. So it shows you where you've come from as well. So I think
the little particles when you blink as well.
And part of presentation is also the information design. So actually, that is part of your information design, right? It's showing you the route.
Yeah, the sort of downfall it's got with that is I still don't know what these white pickups are, or how much time power I've got left, or why these powers are going red. Because I feel like I'm using rewind a lot more.
Well, I think that the
Oh, here we go. What happens if I just interesting? So that feels like it should be a game over. Because right now I can just sort of stop, have a little breather, and then
bounce you off, shouldn't it, or something, or kind of. Yeah.
Or just be the camera keeps moving forwards, and when I fall off the screen.
And that's it. Yeah. So your score's in the top left-hand corner. That seems okay. It looks good. Again, it's a little bit out of the way, but I think that's probably okay for a score.
Yeah.
The things on the bottom right-hand corner.
I've also died quite a few times, and we don't seem to have hit a game over yet.
No.
But let's just die again, just for the sake of it.
But it seems to just knock 5,000 points off you.
Okay.
Oh no, it takes you back to your score at the last checkpoint.
Interesting, because the
that's kind of interesting as well. Yeah.
Because when we got to the end of the tutorial, or when I died in the tutorial, there was like a score breakdown as well.
Okay.
So this definitely seems to be taking us back to the start of that level, because that switch has been down every time so far.
Yes. So I think what they're doing with the thing in the bottom right-hand corner. You're right. I still don't understand what is going on there. We've got 3 different powers. We've got rewind, face forward, and slow.
See if I hold down slow, how long it takes us to run out of slow power, or can I just play the whole game in slow motion?
So, but now
why is my blink gone?
So can you blink now if you try?
I can't blink.
What about rewind?
No.
So you've just run out of power, full stop.
Let's see if I can rewind now.
So you can rewind. Yeah, I think I can see what they're trying to do, but it just doesn't seem to.
The fact that we're not sure what's going on with it means
having discussed it.
Yeah.
Right? And it should be really intuitive. I mean, I would have thought what would have been good to have down there is something something that also gave you more indication of how much power you had left.
Yeah.
So even if it was like 3 bars or something, which were red to white or something like that.
Or just 1 bar, and just as it goes past certain points, you can't use blink anymore, and then you can't use slow anymore, and then you can't use rewind.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that could be what's going on, but yeah. Okay. So in terms of presentation, then graphics I think are really nice. I would say that it would be excellent. Key information showing clearly consistent, appealing graphics, good use of audio.
Do we have any? Can you just turn the sound up a little bit?
We've got. I think we're lacking audio, which is a shame, and some of the information is a bit inconsistent down the bottom there.
Yeah.
So I still think though on balance, maybe put it as a good.
I think it's definitely in good.
So gameplay,
it's very fun to play.
Yeah,
this is quite good. I'm surprised how natural some of it feels, to be honest, because I'm not normally very good at endless runners, but
also you're able to talk while playing it.
Yeah,
which indicates that you're not too furiously concentrating.
I'm sort of in that nice Zen mode so it's one of the aesthetics we talk about, and I've forgotten there's a proper word for it, but it's that sort of mode where you just zone out and let sort of your muscle memory carry things on.
It seems to work quite well for that. The level of challenge seems about right. So, I mean, the controls are obviously intuitive.
I'm curious how they're generating the levels as well, but we'll talk about that in a second.
So, I mean,
hang on, we've just gone through another one of those where the switch is already.
Do you think is it just looping?
I feel like we might be,
which is fine. I mean, if that's what we did ask for a prototype after all. So, okay. So, in terms of the gameplay, then, excellent would be a wide set of complementary mechanics, intuitive and usable controls, and enjoyable and meaningful play. You're almost there. Yes, you probably are. You've got a decent set of mechanics going on. You've got jumping, you've got rewinding, you've got dashing, you've got
the thing
movable platforms.
Yeah, I'm not sure all of the mechanics aren't entirely necessary. So they force you to use the blink with that sort of like the thing literally blocking your path.
The key word is the complementary bit, right?
Yeah.
So they're not as complementary as they could be. They're not used together in a way.
It'd be interesting to create some sort of level where you're forced to use more of them sort of in together. So I'm using the double jump and the dash quite a lot just because I'm mistiming the jumps.
What about if we said maybe halfway between good and excellent? It's kind of as a compromise. Level design. So it's a bit difficult to tell because we repeatedly do the same thing. But,
so I'm not sure if they're... I don't think they're procedurally generated. It feels like I'm seeing a lot of these things...
It feels like they've got a level that is repeated.
Yeah.
And I said, and that
which again isn't a bad
fine.
thing. It's because if it's well designed... And it certainly feels... so this is a problem. I've run out of time power. And now I can't blink. So it's recharged, I suppose.
So you recharge naturally or something. So I'm wondering whether actually the level design might be one of the weaker bits, although your comment about the fact it felt very intuitive.
So they've got a lot of different components that they've clearly put thought into. So obviously the rewind one that forces you to use that rewind power. And then you've got this thing which feels like you can get through it in a couple of different ways.
Yeah, that's quite nice.
It's quite nice. Some of them are... Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what other combinations of these things you could put together.
I think for me it feels more like the individual parts are interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's...
So you could take each of these sections, like, these are quite... But are they put together to make an interesting level?
And is the pacing sort of increasing at a nice rate? I'm not sure the pacing... It doesn't feel like it's getting harder.
So, satisfactory would be a sensible level design that demonstrates some of the mechanics, the attempted pacing, and some goals rewards. So I think the problem is here that in terms of demonstrating the mechanics, it's probably up there in good.
Yes.
And the problem with pacing is it's down there at a pass. So my feeling is the level design is sort of in the middle and is therefore kind of a satisfactory level.
That sounds reasonable, yeah.
Tutorial design. So I'm trying to remember what it did now.
I've sort of forgotten what the tutorial was. I think we might have to quit out and
and then come back in again.
So it introduced the rewind mechanic quite nicely with you have to go down here and then backtrack.
Yes,
that's
true.
But it doesn't explain why you have to do that. No. So you touch the green thing, and the first time we touched it, we didn't realise what had happened.
No.
Other than we'd gotten to the end.
I'm trying to remember what it actually told you.
Let's find out.
Oh, the other thing is it told you very late what jump was. It's like,
so it does give you this little pause, but then
not
sort of
long enough, right?
Yeah, it feels you could have sort of done that about here.
That. So
short iteration cycles, and even in the main game, you overjump that one. Even when you die, you sort of get you get back into the game very quickly, which is quite nice. You've broken the spell, Dave. I'm rubbish.
So they are bringing the things up as you go. So it's clearly integrated.
Yeah.
And some of it is showing the level design, like this bit here.
So it forces you to go down here.
So there's your rewind. Okay, and it kind of shows you, although it could be a little bit better linked, but it's definitely there. And then the same with the dash coming up, I think.
Slow-mo next. But again, it doesn't feel like I actually need I don't use that at all.
But here you definitely have it. So you're like, okay, what the hell do I do?
So it forces you to
blink.
Forces you to do each of those things to get through.
They are stuck down the bottom right again, though.
Yes, they are.
Some are a bit more prominent. But okay, so I think they're clearly integrated. Good would be mostly integrated. That communicates most of the goals and rewards through level design, and that introduces the information and mechanics in a logical way that fits what has gone before. That kind of feels right to me. It kind of you're not quite building quite as satisfactory as you should, but it still feels like it's a good attempt at a tutorial.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so core dynamics. So they say their core dynamic is survival. You're a time traveller traversing the time vortex trying to escape. Infinite runner, use different abilities to overcome obstacles, and at the end you're given a score based on the total distance travelled and the pickups collected.
So that's the thing.
Your score's not going up as you're running. I was doing the tutorial.
Still, I think.
Okay.
But see, some of these things like that, they feel like they crop up in exactly that same pattern in the main game.
So the survival thing But you didn't seem to die.
Yes, I almost wonder if that was a bug, because I feel like I had many more lives than I should have had.
Yes.
For the sake
But
of
I mean, in
argument,
principle...
there we go.
Oh, there you go.
So in the tutorial, we do game over, and
Yeah.
it gives us a distance and a pickup bonus. Now, it said this the first time as well, pickup bonus 0.
Yeah.
What are the pickups? Are they not those
Yeah.
white things? Because if
Yeah.
they're not, then...
So it's not quite clear what that is.
So either that score's slightly bugged, or... The
So
pickup's slightly bugged.
if I'm reading this right, then those things are just giving you time energy, and the time energy is there to enable you to progress. So in that case, the pickups are there to enable you to progress, and are therefore part of the kind of survival part of it.
So they don't necessarily need to give you bonus points.
No, I'm assuming that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And the score thing, the score is clearly going up. So I mean, it works as a core dynamic. It's fairly clean. I don't think it's messed up at all. They've not got too much stuff in there that mixes it up, and they're using the collection parts that they do have in service of the core dynamic. Again, it's just that some bits it's not quite clear how it all fits together.
So I don't think I'm getting a game over. I think I'm just getting sent back to the beginning.
So we might have a bit of a bug there, which is a bit unfortunate.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is a shame, because that game over screen with the sort of breakdown of points was actually really nice.
So in terms of the core dynamic then,
I think it's mostly there.
It's kind of good, isn't it? It's a clear core dynamic. It suits the theme of the game. It's well supported by the primary mechanics and most of the audio-visual choices. I think it's kind of okay. I think. So feedback then. So what they said was that originally you could continually rewind time, so they added a power level to limit how much you use the power. They said fast forward may be difficult to use or not useful, so they changed it to a blink ability.
That seems reasonable.
Which I think works. They were told their scope was too big, so they reduced the scope. They were told power drains too quickly, and they reduced the power usage. And sometimes I can't jump far enough, so they've made it by holding jump allows you to jump further.
Oh, really? I hadn't noticed that. Oh, that was a long way back. So now I feel like I'm doing all of this
try
again.
doing your super big jump.
So there's a double jump. I don't know if that's what they meant.
Perhaps they know that. So it feels to me that they've clearly responded, but whether or not they've really engaged with why they were getting the comments they were getting.
Yeah.
So they're obviously giving some kind of direct mechanical feedback, like the continue rewinding and that kind of stuff.
The slowdown.
The blink's good.
The blink's good. The slowdown still feels kind of vestigial. Like I don't either. Why not hold it down all the time? When you've got that limited amount of power, or like why ever use it?
So in terms of feedback, I think it was. I think feedback was articulated. Reasonable changes being made with some success. That would be good.
Yeah,
I'm happy with that. Right.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the last one of our games for this session. We will see you again in the next video.